There's a debate raging this afternoon about who should have the right to vote. California elections officials are being sued in an effort to allow tens of thousands of felons to vote in the June primary election. The lawsuit asks the court to order elections workers to let citizens vote even if they're incarcerated or supervised at the county level. California is one of 48 states and the District of Columbia that prohibit felons from voting while they're incarcerated. The exceptions are Maine and Vermont. So we want to know where you stand when it comes to paroled prisoners heading to the polls. Are you okay with it? Or do you think voting is a right reserved for only non-felons? Jim Sharp here to weigh in on this. And this is another debate that really is getting two sides here. And it's raging on our Facebook page.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those things that you just kind of take for granted. Felons lose their right to vote. But if you think about it, I mean, how much of a punishment really is it? You know, you're taking away their civil rights to a certain extent. But I imagine a lot of these guys that are, you know, criminals, they don't care about voting to begin with. So to me, it's almost a non-issue. But everybody should have the right to vote. And there is a process to restore your rights after you get released from prison. The weird thing is, of course, that they're mixing county inmates with, you know, state inmates, and the difference between jail and prison is that you get a year, you go to prison, or you get anything less than a year, you go to jail.
Right, which is the county level. But so many supporters, they're arguing here that letting offenders have the right to vote, it should be a part of their rehabilitation to get back out there and feel like, you know, they are a contributing citizen to society in that respect. You
know, I know a couple of guys actually who've had felony DUI convictions through the years, and they have to go through the process. And it's one of the things that they consider an honor to be able to vote. And yeah, I can see how that would be part of the rehabilitation. As far as it being punishment, I don't know. Yeah,
part of rehab. ACLU, of course, already raising the flag, saying that, you know, there's a disproportionate number of minorities who are affected because, you know, there's more minorities in prison. So if we, you know, swipe the slate, you're talking about a number of people who will never be able to get their right to go back to the polling place. And they're arguing here that this should be done.
Well, you know, what's fair is fair, and if somebody goes to prison, I mean, maybe we need to look at the overall setup that we have in our judicial system and the penalty phase of that. But you know, if somebody is losing their right to vote because they've done something wrong, then they should lose their right to vote. Race shouldn't be a matter in all this. But I think, you know, it's a good part of the giving back to society, having to go through that process of getting your right back to vote.
Well, here's what you guys are saying on our Facebook page. Carol Turley writes, no, not okay with it at all. When they did the crime, they need to remain without their voting rights as a felon. Crystal Wright, I think they should be allowed if they serve their time. Lee Silby Jr., no, it's a right they lose. Rick says, if not on parole or probation, they should have the same rights as the rest of us, seeing as they have served their time as appointed by the courts of this land. And a lot of people say that. You do your time, then you should be able to go back into society and fulfill your right as you know, a regular citizen like the rest of us.
Well, I'd imagine probably Sheriff Joe doesn't want these people to have the right to vote because they spend time with them. And
you're absolutely right. There are so many people who are on one side of a really strong opinion about this, and then others who say, you know what, maybe this should be a way to kind of allow them to feel more fulfilled in some way.
You know, interestingly, I think a lot of people who feel strongly about this, especially towards allowing prisoners to have the right to vote eventually, are people who've been touched by prison. Not the fault of their own. A family member or a good friend or something has spent time, you know, did a crime, and they'd like to see that person be a whole person.
And there's so many people who aren't incarcerated who don't want to vote. There's so many people who don't even want to take a part of the political process at all.
Yeah, maybe you can transfer that somehow. I haven't voted in the last 5 elections. You can have my vote.
Yeah, take my voting card. I don't need